Welcome to Storytime with Sirece, my online talk show designed to create a safe space to simply hear people's stories. Knowing someone's history can truly change your perspective on who they really are. And in this world today, we need more compassion, empathy, and grace. So sit back and relax and join me on a journey as we hear different stories that will make you laugh, cry, and even encourage you to tell yours. Because everyone has a story to tell, everyone has a voice, and everyone deserves to be heard. And that happens right here, right now on Storytime with Sirece. And now, let's all welcome your host, Sirece Thomas. We are here. We are back with another story time with Sirece. Oh my gosh, I hope you guys have been enjoying it as much as I have been. It's been wonderful just hearing other people's stories, especially beginning with people that I'm so close to. It just gives you, let me tell you something. You could think you're close to someone, but the more you just really hear someone's story and just take it back, like even my own husband, like just sitting down and kind of asking actual interview questions to my husband gave me even deeper perspective. Sometimes you need to take the people in your life that you care about and you love and just be like, tell me a little bit more about that experience. I mean, like, now, don't do it like that. Not the actual interview at the dinner table. Now, tell me a little bit how you were feeling. But like, sometimes, like as we go around so much asking people, how you doing? Oh, good to see you. Oh, I'm good. And really inside, you're just like, I'm dying. We do not, because who's going to like really stop and say, I'm not so good. I'm not going to lie. If I ask someone like, how you doing? Like just in passing and they're like, I'm not good. I would be so thrown off. I wouldn't even be prepared because we don't normally answer that generic question. It's almost like a greeting. How are you? It's a greeting. It's like, it really means, hey, how are you? Like, you know what I'm saying? So someone actually stopped and was just like, I'm not good. I'm just not good. And it's like, they can look good. They can have everything on. We all know this. The mask of today is nothing like yesterday. We've got technology. We've got all the beautiful pictures that people show. And it's just like, one time I like scrolled through my Instagram and I was like, wow, I'm so grateful and blessed for my life. But, social media does not show the in-betweens. And I started questioning, like, should I start posting instead of like a nice selfie? Like, should I sometimes just be like, imagine if you can just show the in-betweens. It's Tuesday and you are not feeling life. So your selfie is just like, so then people are just like, hey, saw your selfie, you weren't smiling. Let me know. I know this is real life, right? We don't show that. Because like, in my mind, I'm like, I like to use social media to encourage, to laugh, all that kind of stuff, positivity. But it is so easy to just miss what people are going through. So just simply diving in, even into your loved ones, and really having them re-explain an experience, I'm telling you, it hits different. So it's been a blessing to hear from my husband and to hear from my mom. And I am so excited to keep the list going. I've got people on my list that I just cannot wait to hear their story, like just personally. Like I said, this is also my personal journey in learning how to be genuinely connected to people by hearing their story. But I'm super excited for them to be able to share that with the world because we just don't get the opportunity to do that. So here on Storytime with Sirece, this is our safe space. And, it's just been wonderful, So our first series we kicked off was all about grief. And we concluded it recently with my mom's interview, which was, woo, you talk about levels. Well, obviously she just turned 65. So she's got decades on decades on decades Well, I gotta say it like that, right? My mom's like, okay. She's got decades on decades on decades of experiences. Like the more we live, the more stories we have, right? So we heard about, different levels of grief and different types of grief from, losing a sibling, losing a parent, losing another parent, the grief of a vision with her first child who was born with disabilities, from losing a marriage, divorce, the grief of that. And so the list goes on. Health, her battle with breast cancer, like, whoo, you know what I'm saying? Like, and honestly, I'm not even just gonna say that, age. Of course, age inevitably comes with more stories, but there are some people out here that are younger than me, younger than you, that have dealt with stories that you're just like, wow. You know what I'm saying? It's really crazy. Life is crazy. Life is multifaceted. So to really hear someone's story takes it to a whole nother level. So I hope that you were encouraged by that. And I just wanted to continue to kick off Storytime with Sirece as we hear other interviews. I'm sure that some of those interviews will dive back into grief. But I wanted to be really specific on talking about grief in the beginning because it was just on my heart, and just, again, the different levels of grief, the loss of a friendship, sometimes just going to another level and just grieving that friendship, the loss of an idea, where you're just like, I thought this was going to be one way and it's not. And now I'm kind of grieving that. And the whole point of all of this is just not to get stuck there, to know that God is still writing our story. We do not have to gravitate to this place where we're just like, well, that didn't happen, so I guess that's it. It's probably easier to get stuck in a story, and it's probably easier to just give up than to begin to re-envision and to dream again, right? And just hearing the stories from Daniel and my mother, that was big. Keep moving, keep dreaming again, continue to re-envision, allow that grief to turn into gratefulness, allow yourself to rest, allow yourself to grieve. Some people don't even allow themselves to grieve, and find themselves in a place where it's changing everything about them and who they are and the guards that they're putting up and not letting people in. So it can get crazy. You know what I'm saying? So hearing people's stories allows us to love people, show compassion, give grace, and just not judge them based on what we see. And just because we know the front cover and we know the summary, and maybe we played a small part in their story, we feel like we know the whole thing. But when you really get to hear someone's full story, it truly allows you to have a lens of compassion. So yeah, in the beginning, when I shared my personal experiences with grief, it was really becoming a new wife, okay, and a new mom, because you might grieve old relationships, but there are also old habits and patterns and the way you just do life that change. They slowly change, sometimes abruptly, sometimes over time, when you get into a relationship, when you get married, and there is a level of grief, just like when I became a new mom. It was just like, even before I had my amazing, incredible daughter, that's all I could think about. I want a child, I want a child. That started to consume me. The grief of not having my child when I thought I was going to have my child was grief in itself. And finding out that I had fibroids that I had to address and then had to wait even longer before I got pregnant was grief in itself, right? And when I finally got her, here's this beautiful big blessing. And shortly after, I started to experience the grief of my old habits, my old lifestyle, my old pattern. Now, that didn't mean that I was just like, man, I want to go back. I wouldn't trade it in for nothing. But sometimes grief is coupled with guilt. So you kind of bottle those feelings because you feel guilty for having this incredible blessing that you've been praying for, but now you're grieving some of the things that you used to miss before the blessing, because with something new comes more responsibility. It takes more of yourself, more of your time, more of your focus, more of your energy, and the list goes on. You know what I'm saying? So you start to feel guilty, and I just feel like feeling guilty is like being a thief of grief. Guilty likes to take that grief and say, how could you feel that? How could you feel that way? You've asked for this. This is your blessing. You wanted this new job. You wanted this promotion, and now you're stressed and you're grieving. So I feel like feeling guilty tries to take away the ability to just acknowledge the grief. If we don't acknowledge the grief, then we start to build this silent resentment towards the blessing, and it really holds us back. We have to be able to talk about it. We have to be able to let it out, and we have to be able to pray about it and move forward and allow that grief to turn into something beautiful. So one of the verses that kind of blew my mind, because you know how you could read a verse, read a chapter, read it again, and then it's like a whole new thing. Jesus was talking to his disciples, and he was about to experience one of the most hardest times on his earthly life. He was about to go to the cross for all of us. And he was letting them know, this is what's about to go down. You guys can't prevent it. You can't stop it. I know you keep saying how is this going to happen? He's letting them know the person that you've grown to love, you're about to lose, and you are going to experience a level of grief and sorrow. And I was just whoo, just imagine. And some of us have experienced that, being with a loved one and actually seeing them go on and having it's a thin line to have the opportunity to speak to someone that's about to pass on. And they're telling you, look, things are about to change and you're going to go through. But he ends that verse, and it almost gives me goosebumps. It gives me goosebumps. He ends that verse with saying, you're going to have grief, but that grief is going to turn into joy. I was just it's just such a promise. And even coming from the person who's about to go through it, to even have the strength to still encourage his people, look, you're about to experience a season that's going to take you down. And it's even crazier. In that same verse, this is John 16 or something. And he says, you're going to experience this grief, and the world around you is going to be rejoicing and just moving on. You ever feel like that? You ever just feel like you're going through stuff and everybody else around you, it's in slow motion? You ever been out, but you don't even feel like being out, but you're there and you feel like everybody is just slow motion? Yeah, girl, life is sweet. And you're I hate being here because that is not how I'm feeling, and no one is aware of it, right? Not to anyone's fault, but sometimes that's how we feel. We feel so isolated in our feelings of sorrow and grief, and the world around us, it just keeps moving. Life keeps coming. Christmas is coming. Holidays are coming. Birthdays are coming, and nothing's going to stop that. And it's very hard to sometimes, you want the world to just say, everyone, take a seat and pause so I can deal with this. And when I get back up, we can move on. That's just not how life is. But in the verse, he lets us know that. Jesus is you're going to have sorrow. You're going to have grief. The world is going to rejoice. You're going to feel the depths of anguish. But there's going to come a time where that sorrow turns to gladness, that grief turns to joy. And I mean, that is the biggest promise that I had to cling to, because it's just simply saying grief isn't the end of your story, so don't let it be. Sorrow isn't the end. If the vision fell and God is saying, well, we're going to have to re-envision. I already saw this coming. I already had something else for you. Are you willing to let that go so that I can give you something else? It reminds me of the picture of the little girl, and she's got this teddy that she's held on to for so long. She's put so much effort in taking care of this teddy bear that the teddy bear is old and raggedy and beat up. There's a little bit of cotton, but that's her favorite teddy. And Jesus comes to her because it's time for that teddy to go. That teddy's not going to grow. That teddy is not going where she's going, but she's got to give it up. And the picture just speaks a million words, because she's holding on to the teddy and Jesus is in front of her, and he's asking so politely, so patiently. He's not snatching it out of her hands. He's not snapping his fingers and making it disappear. He's saying, give it to me and trust me. And behind his back is a teddy bear 3 times as big, brand new. If she could see it, she would have tossed that old teddy bear so fast. And that's us today. We are holding on to some raggedy stuff, and we are holding on to things. And it doesn't mean that it didn't serve its purpose while it needed to serve its purpose, but it's time to let it go. And God is saying, if you can let it go and you can trust me first, I have something 10 times greater for you. You just got to re-envision. You just have to dream again. It is true. He has a brighter future for you, filled with laughter, love, visions coming true, dreams coming true. It's just so hard to see it from a certain place. So it reminds me of my story. There's been times where I've been just depressed, down, and out. Not necessarily for no reason. Grief sometimes can come in ways where I'm telling you, grief is a funny thing. Don't underestimate it. It's like I said, it's obviously not always the loss of a loved one, but sometimes it's just the loss of that energy and that joy that you're used to. How do you get there? So many ways. So many ways. And many of them are subtle. Many of them are subtle. There's certain habits and things you start letting into your ear gate and your eye gate, and you don't realize those things are bringing you down, because that's how the enemy is. He presents himself as something fun, as something lovely, as something nice, but it really is just zapping you along the way. And I remember getting to those places where I was just like, how do I get out of there? You almost start to feel numb. And I'm like, what did I do to get here? What have I been letting in? What have I not been letting in? And I think about that verse where it says, your grief will turn to joy. And I'm like, joy. And I had to literally ask myself, what is joy for me? What is joy to me? And then you talk about that verse where he says, keep your mind on those things that are good, pure, lovely. Because once you get into that dark place, you almost get consumed with those thoughts of darkness, of discouragement, of despair, of anxiety, and you almost just focus there. That's all the enemy wants to do. All he wants to do is shift your mind. Like, we're really going to talk about it here. All he wants to do is get you thinking a certain way. If he can get your mind, he don't got to get nothing else. He don't got to get nothing else. Your mind, once he's got a hold on your mind and he's got those thoughts going in a certain direction, he can let you spiral while he goes on to the next, until he starts seeing you get up again. And the 3 things that I thought about was gratitude, remembrance, and mindset. The first thing I remember is I heard someone say, you've got to have gratitude about where you are, who you are, what you already have. Stop thinking about where you're not, who you're not, and what you don't have. Start thinking about what is currently happening in this time that you are grateful for. Think about where you came from. And I started to think about those things, and I could see something lift mentally for me, right? I can't even really put my finger on what that was, but if this is for you and you just feel like you have just been constantly in a pattern of thoughts and discouragement and anxiety, start to think about those things. I know it's almost like you don't even, what? And then from the gratitude, I went to reminding myself back to that verse that God's got bright plans for me. So if I stay here, I'm going to miss it. I got to get up so I can get back to writing that story, right? Or not even writing it. I can get back to being the main character in the story that God is writing about my life. If I stay here, it's just, how can the character move around and go somewhere? How can he write the story if I stay here? So I've got to have gratitude. I've got to remember that there's more to the story. And if for anything, just be nosy about it. If you don't believe in the end of your story, just get up and start walking so you can just at least see where it's going. Just get curious about yourself. Sometimes you got to get curious about who God made you and where you are going. You got to sometimes sit back and be like, all right, where are we going with this? Why am I here? Trust me. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, child, Cincinnati. I'm like, Lord, what am I doing here? But I'm curious. I want to know, but I got to get up so I can see where this is going in my story. And lastly, I had to shift my mindset. I had to start thinking about things that make me laugh, that make me feel good, that fill me up. For me, I got to get back in my word. I got to sit at the feet of Jesus. That's for me. I have to. I have to. Like, I get it when he says meditate. Like, sometimes I'm not gonna lie, I'm just like, I don't feel like, I don't feel, but the moment I hit that word, it's active, it's alive, and it's moving me mentally. It's taking captive thoughts. It's lifting my spirit. It's empowering me. It's starting to fill me with dreams. Let me tell you, you don't have to feel like anything. Just start thinking. Gratitude. This is really a whole mindset. Gratitude, remembering, and shifting that mindset. Think on those things that you love. And if it's not, and along with getting to the word, you know me, I love to laugh. A mom laugh, that is. I'm never, ever gonna let that go. Ever. I don't even know how to laugh in public right now, right? But thank you for those that have encouraged me about my laugh. But even now, I'm like, what do I sound like? What is a mom laugh? Okay, let me not get distracted. But yeah, I love to laugh. Now, I'm a little weird because I don't really watch like comedy and stuff like that. But I just love to have a good time. I love to have a conversation. Like, people make me laugh. I like to watch videos of, I know, people falling, without hurting themselves. I fall, I trip, and as long as you're not hurting yourself, my mom used to get so mad at me. Oh my gosh. When I was young, my dad would trip, my brother would fall, I would lose it. And the worst thing you could say to someone is, don't laugh. That's it. So anytime I fall, but the last time I fell, I cried. Now, why did I cry? Because first of all, I'm too old for falling. So I think I got a little scared, but I was more scared because I was holding Persia. And I fell down a flight of stairs in front of everybody. Everybody. It was raining, it was slippery, it was outside, and she was tiny. But I held on to her, which is why it hurt so much. Oh my God. And you see, I'm naturally laughing, but I was hurt. I was scared for her. She eventually fell out of my arms, but she landed like Spider-Woman. I was like, that was impressive. And obviously like Daniel scooped her up right away and she was just more shocked, but I was like, is she okay? Child, I've been falling down the stairs all my life. All right, sidebar. Anyways, but those kind of things just make me feel good. I love to laugh. I love to get outside and walk. Okay, my grandmother back in the day, Nana Dugard, she used to walk me to the salon. It was like 40 blocks, no lie. 40 New York blocks. Well, Queens, New York blocks, but what was that, Cambria Heights? Child. I just remember telling her, like, my feet hurt. She's like, come on, baby, let's keep walking. We would get there. She would do her hair for like an hour, and then we had to get back. And then she would mess around and go to the store. So she actually is carrying bags. I'm like, how? How was she doing this? I was like 9. So we walked like 80 blocks that day, But now that I'm older, I love to walk because along the walk, we would look at things and see things and people watch. And it was just wonderful, Shout out to my Nana Dugard. But I love to walk. I love to do things like that. I love to cook. I love a new recipe, honey. So you just have to do things that bring that joy back. Get in your word. Find activities and people that bring that good feel. Sometimes you need the good feeling to override the bad feeling. Just as a start. That's all I'm saying. So I hope you're encouraged by that, I'm super excited to continue diving into the stories and just know that, your grief will turn into joy. Your sorrow will turn into gladness. You'll be so proud of yourself if you just get up and see where your story is going. That's all I ask. Don't give up. Do not give up. You would actually be shocked to know where your story is going. God always does exceedingly abundantly all you could ask or imagine. So if you just get with the program, and I understand that vision or that plan or that business or that job or that friend or that relationship or that thing didn't go the way you thought it was going, give yourself time to grieve and let's keep moving, because it's like, man, I really wanted that. But if I can see where God is taking me, I can imagine that he's going to do even bigger and better. So let me see. I just want you to get up just so you can see. Let's just be nosy with your story. You don't got to tell yourself anything. You don't got to get on no 10-step plan, 5-step program. You'll get there. He will take baby steps to get you out of your rut, to get you out of depression, to get you out of your grief if you're there too long or you're getting stuck. He will take those baby steps. And when you find yourself in a certain place, then maybe he'll say, hey, consider therapy. Hey, maybe talk to this person. He will send people to you. And sometimes sending people doesn't necessarily mean that you sitting there and all of a sudden your doorbell rings and you're just like, Sarah? I was waiting for God to send a person. Now, sometimes, hey, Sarah might just show up. But sometimes he will highlight a person, or someone will say, hey, you should speak to this person. You know what I'm saying? And you have to approach, and that person's like, well, I've been waiting for you, or whatever. The time just lines up. God is in the season this year of lining you up and getting you up to do different things and to keep moving so that you could see what's next in the story. So I'm super excited about all the stories that are going to continue to come from Storytime with Sirece. So be encouraged. I'm so excited. Thank you for all of my new subscribers and new followers. Thank you for the comments and the engagement. I truly love you from the bottom of my heart. This is just so exciting. And yeah, guys, let's keep it going. We'll see you next time on Storytime with Sirece. And if you have a story to tell, be sure to reach out to me. Check me out. Check my information out below. Reach out to me. Let me know. And let's get your story out there. I can't wait. And I'll see you very soon.